In this module, we will review what good clinical practice is, the definition of GCP, and what its purpose and objectives are. Most importantly, we will focus on the 13 principles of GCP. Let's start with the definition. The history and basics of GCP give a better understanding of what these standards are. Good clinical practice, also known as ICH GCP or simply GCP, is an international quality standard that is provided by the International Conference on Harmonization, or ICH, which governments can transpose into regulations for clinical trials involving human subjects. Good clinical practice guidelines include protection of human rights as a subject in clinical trials. It also provides assurance of the safety and efficacy of the newly developed compounds. Good clinical practice guidelines include standards on how clinical trials should be conducted, define the roles and responsibilities of clinical trial sponsors, clinical research investigators, and monitors. The first very important event which contributed considerably for the introduction of good clinical practice standards was the Declaration of Helsinki. The Declaration of Helsinki is a set of ethical principles regarding human experimentation developed for the medical community by the World Medical Association, or WMA. It is widely regarded as the cornerstone document of human research ethics. The declaration was originally adopted in June 1964 in Helsinki, Finland, and has since undergone 6 revisions, the most recent at the General Assembly in October 2008, and 2 clarifications, growing considerably in length from 11 to 35 paragraphs. The Declaration is an important document in the history of research ethics as the first significant effort of the medical community to regulate research itself, and forms the basis of most subsequent documents. Maybe you have heard of the terms WHO GCP and ICH GCP. Let's take a closer look and see what the differences between WHO GCP and ICH GCP are. The WHO, the World Health Organization, started the process of developing guidelines in the late 1960s. By the mid-1970s, one of their scientific groups formulated proposals and guidelines for research in the field of drug development, which eventually concluded with the WHO GCP guidelines being published in 1995. These reports also provided the basis for the ICH GCP as an international guideline, published in 1996. So, the WH GCP guidelines and ICH GCP were more or less written in parallel by some of the same experts and are basically similar. Differences in content and style reflect differences in their intended purpose. As the purpose of GCP is to ensure the correct conduct of clinical trials, let's review what the 13 principles of GCP are. 1. Clinical trials should be conducted in accordance with the ethical principles that have their origin in the Declaration of Helsinki and that are consistent with GCP and the applicable regulatory requirements. 2. Before a trial is initiated, foreseeable risks and inconveniences should be weighed against the anticipated benefit for the individual trial subject and society. A trial should be initiated and continued only if the anticipated benefits justify the risks. 3. The rights, safety, and well-being of the trial subjects are the most important considerations and should prevail over interests of science and society. 4. The available non-clinical and clinical information on an investigational product should be adequate to support the proposed clinical trial. 5. Clinical trials should be scientifically sound and described in a clear, detailed protocol. 6. A trial should be conducted in compliance with the protocol that has received prior Institutional Review Board, or IRB, Independent Ethics Committee, or IEC approval, or favourable opinion. 7. The medical care given to and medical decisions made on behalf of subjects should always be the responsibility of a qualified physician or, when appropriate, of a qualified dentist. 8. Each individual involved in conducting a trial should be qualified by education, training, and experience to perform his or her respective tasks. 9. Freely given informed consent forms should be obtained from every subject prior to clinical trial participation. 10. All clinical trial information should be recorded, handled, and stored in a way that allows its accurate reporting, interpretation, and verification. 11. The confidentiality of records that could identify subjects should be protected, respecting the privacy and confidentiality rules in accordance with the applicable regulatory requirements. 12. Investigational products should be manufactured, handled, and stored in accordance with applicable Good Manufacturing Practice, or GMP. They should be used in accordance with the approved protocol. 13. Systems with procedures that assure the quality of every aspect of the trial should be implemented.